This livestream series is sponsored by Slice Engineering and the Mosquito Magnum Plus hot end. Push absurd amounts of filament while maintaining the structural integrity of the Mosquito design. The Mosquito Magnum Plus can be configured with up to 100 watts of heating power, redundant 500 degrees Celsius rated thermistors, and air or water cooling. I'll be using the Magnum Plus for this build, and you can find the links in the description below. Also, Do It 3D, the Voron printed forward team, and Lineo were kind enough to provide some of their high quality parts for this build free of charge. I've purchased the rest of the parts on the regular, like the FormBot kit, upgrades from Fermio Labs, and little bits here and there. You can find links for everything in the description below. Now, let's get started with the build. Welcome everyone to the next part of the Voron 2.4 build. Yeah, day before yesterday, this is what we managed to do. We built the frame, frame's done, got all the rails on there, we've got the Z gearboxes, I'm gonna call them, motor mounts for that, and today we're just gonna keep on going. I've already got the manual pulled up, so that's where we left off. This is where we're gonna start back up. So that is the electronics mount in the bottom. One thing before we start, actually, maybe you saw that in the pre-roll there. I did get one more part for this build from Lineo.
Got you before you even started.
Okay, thank you for that, Josh. Thank you for that, Josh. I got one more part from Lineo for the build, and that is a wiring harness that they made specifically for this purpose for the Do It 3 that we're going to be using. And that has all the appropriate, I'm not going to bend those, all the appropriate connectors on this side over here. Also, hopefully, oh yeah, that is looking a lot better. I think I fixed autofocus on this camera. It's just center spot now. So that's all the connections for the Do It. You can see the chunky motor connectors. That is going to be fantastic. And also, yeah, it's red, which is going to be interesting. I guess in black drag chains, that is going to work out pretty well. So you won't spend 2 days wiring. Yeah, I don't like crimping. So yeah. Mr. Agony is asking, is this a kit build or completely DIY? It's a bit of a mix of both. So maybe behind me, yeah, you can see the box of the kit. This is based on kit components from the FormBot kit, but I'm substituting some parts where I think, you know, there are better options for it, such as the hot end, the electronics, the wiring. Well, they don't supply wiring, they just supply you with the stuff to crimp your own stuff. The build plate, where I'm using a Fermio one. So yeah, it's kind of the ease of getting a kit, but hopefully with components where it matters that are a bit better performance. Right. Why does the configurator give SKR 1.4 and you're using Do It? I mean, you can use whichever one you want. I do have some special applications in mind for this printer, for this Voron 2.4. Where I am probably going to be needing a Do It, where the SKR and Clipper platform might run out of options. So I'm going safe with this one with Do It. There are smaller Do It options that you could use, but yeah, I was like, well, I know the guys that Do It. They were like, we could ship you a smaller one, a simpler one, but I think what you need is the big boy. So I went for the big boy Do It 3, which is not a cheap platform. Like, don't get me wrong. Do It is not especially the full Do It 3 is not a cheap board. But for what I've got planned for this printer, it is probably the best option. And yes, I do still have the stops in here so that these blocks don't fly off. All right. So woo, that looks warped, but that is just the cheap lens on that top camera. No worries, this frame is very square. Let's see. So the sandwich. Oh yeah, we're gonna use the first acrylic plate for that. One thing that they're mentioning is cutting DIN. So the DIN rails that are gonna be mounting, so much for fixing the autofocus. There we go. So the DIN rails that is supposed to mount all the electronics to, the ones they ship are, so the ones that the kit ships are almost the correct length. So I did cut off just the tiniest bit on the end. I cut off maybe another centimeter. They are a centimeter short of taking up the entire length, but what the manual says right here is there is a suggestion to just cut it a slight bit short.
I really love it. Hope there will be some kits available soon from German sources.
Yeah, that would be nice. Because sourcing all these parts can be a bit of a hassle, which is why I just went for the kit, even though the kit is not going to have, like I said, I am replacing a bunch of parts. The kit does not have all the highest quality components. But yeah, thank you for the €5 tip. This, I believe, is the part we need. So that's going to sit, and does this have like a... Does that have a protective film on it? It feels like it does. It looks like it does. Yeah, it does. It does. So that is going to sit. Let me see. So there's a little hole right there in the cutout, which we do have here. Nope, there. We do have here. So that's these bits over here, and they go... I mean, so far this frame doesn't have a back or a front. It doesn't have a forward or backward yet. So with this part, I think this is the first part that actually has an orientation. And that aligns along those rails, like this. So the bed rails are below that in this orientation. That goes below the rails, and then you have the thin rails that go on top like that. That is going to be tricky to assemble because I am not that tall. Also, the bottom rails here, I'm going to have to loosen these screws back up just a bit so we can slide them around and actually align them with the holes, which is close, but not quite there. Middle holes are the back. So that's going to be the back then. Okay, I mean, it doesn't matter. The frame is symmetrical. So yeah, I also saw we've got a bunch of folks from the Voron team in chat again. Basically, the entire Voron dev team was here last time. Welcome, thank you for hanging out and for...
Today's build is going great. Watch the belts, fellow Voron builder and YouTuber. Smash the like button, people. 331 watching and only 31 like.
Yeah, thank you to the Voron team for being here and for kind of keeping an eye on my build performance. I mean, it does add a bit of stress knowing that all the devs are here and they're gonna judge my every move, but I guess it's better than screwing up in the end. And yeah, glad to have you guys here, and thank you for the 10, Zachary. Zachary, yeah. Sure, 300 people watching. We're going to see how many people stick around until this thing is printing, which is going to be a couple more streams, actually. That's going to be interesting to line up. Using M5 fasteners. Depending on the thickness of your panel, you may need to use a washer so that the fasteners do not bottom out into the extrusions. Check your orientation, the notches in the back. Okay. And we're using M5 by 10. So yeah, it is going to be a bit longer until this printer is actually working because there is quite a bit to assemble still. There we go. So Nero just mentioned you're probably at hour 3 of 20 or of 24. So hold on, about 20 hours. About 20 hours remaining. Okay, so we need the... What do we need? Hammer nuts. M5 T-nuts, not the hammer nuts. So I'm guessing these get inserted before all this goes in, because that's going to be a bit tricky to get these in now. Well, maybe not. Nah. I'll just drop it in beforehand. Come on. Come on.
Voron looks really nice, but all my money goes into beer brewing.
That's pretty loose.
And my 2 broken enders. Prost.
Thank you for the $6.99. beer brewing. That seems to be a thing that a lot of people get into. Come on. And it's just it always amazes me how diverse and versatile. Why you're not going in? The maker community is, just by all the different things that people are into. And there's always the fascinating thing is, if you're saying, "Oh, I'm into brewing," there's always someone else who's also like, "Oh, yeah, I'm into that too. I can share the stuff that I've learned over the last 10 years that I've been doing it." I think that's the best part about it. I need to grab these needle nose pliers again. These did work. Yeah, this one works better. Just poking in the tip into that thread. Not the intended use, but it does work. These are sized. Whoops, sorry. Sorry, headphone users. These are sized pretty much perfectly to just go in here, twist it around. There we go. So that is going to be that second nail in the coffin for headphone users. There's one. Where is that? That needs to go further to the right. A bit tricky to align this, but not impossible. There is also, I guess, a bit of leeway if you have alignment issues with your DIN rails, because those only have so many holes that you can align it with. So if you drop it on here, you can see this one is lined up. Maybe you cannot see that, but I guess. Should I take off the film off the panel? I guess I should before I screw these down. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I've built printers before where I just did not bother tearing off the paper, and that was fun. That was actually, I think, justified, because the paper on that printer was horrible to peel off. This one, oh, of course, we need to do the close up. There's one. Should just grab a knife. All nice and glossy. Is that an ABS panel? Oh, it smells like ozone. Or nitrous oxides, whatever that smell is. And it is already covered in dog hair. That is perfect. Is it an ABS panel? I don't think it would be. Going by the general feel and my expectations on the kit, I would think this is just a... I would think that is just a regular plexiglass panel. So there's a bit of a problem. So M5 screws, M5 screw does not go through. No Windows, no, this is a bad time for an update. M5 screw will not go through, so I will need to use a different screw, I guess. Does the M3 fit? M3 kind of works if I put a washer onto that.
Ensure that the bottom plate does not rattle after you screwed it tight, or else the printer will be noisy on its moves.
I'm not sure how I can... Not sure how I can assure that. I guess if I put some flexible tape or some foam tape between the rail and the acrylic, that would stop rattles. But I can I do that after the fact? I don't know. Okay, what do we do about these rails then? I think the smartest thing would be to use a an M4
Do you
screw.
think the 3D printed parts are fine? There are the parts CNC machined aluminium at AliExpress.
I will answer that in a second. I will grab some M4 screws and T-nuts because the M5 screws just simply do not fit. And I don't want to drill this, you know, drilling out these, what are these called? Slots, basically, these slotted holes. That's not going to go well. I'll grab the proper parts and yeah, I do have some. Nero, there are no M4 T-nuts included, but I do have some. There we go. I don't have T-nuts, but I do have hammer nuts, which are close enough. These 2020 M4, these are all hammer nuts, which is gonna work. And then we need some M4 by 10 stainless. The panel is anodized, but I guess we can excuse that for now. Combining a stainless fastener to a combining stainless and galvanized fasteners isn't great. It's going to eat away at the galvanized coating on your galvanized part, and eventually that's going to rust. But you know, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. And that includes getting these T-nuts out. Can I get these T-nuts out? Apparently not. By the way, yeah, who Karen says looks well designed. Yes, it does look well designed, and the issue with these parts being a mismatch, that is a problem entirely of the FormBot kit, which is not associated with the Voron team. That is entirely an issue with them not including the correct parts. And I can't get these nuts out. Does an M4 screw work for tilting these out? Nope. Looks like I'm gonna have to take off the rail entirely. Wow. That's gonna be fun. The rest is already assembled underneath it. That's the 3. I think that should be the right one. Yeah. Just remove the rails, yeah. That's what I'm trying to do. The thing is, this slot is covered up by this end piece on here, so I can't just take them out. Nah. I'm gonna have to take off this screw entirely. And then we can take this end cap off. Yeah, that is a lot faster than futzing around with a screwdriver or something. Stop. Stop what? What is mildly painful? There we go. So that can go back on. While I do that, Jay Shea asked, hey, do you think the printed parts are fine for the Voron? So using ABS printed parts for this entire build. And honestly, yeah, ABS printed parts should be fine, because if your printed parts fail due to temperature issues, then you are going to have an issue with a lot of the other components in here as well, such as fans. Motors are not going to be very happy. A whole bunch of parts are going to start failing before the printed parts fail. Of course, if you can get machined parts, then those might be more rigid, slightly, but yeah, probably not a big issue. Especially because this printer is designed to be 3D printed. I mean, that the printed parts are, just making sure this is all aligned. The printed parts are all designed to be 3D printed. So the correct spec is actually 3D printed parts. Now for the top plate. So basically, some parts need flex. Yeah, okay, that's a consideration too. That some of the parts are designed to be flexible. Again, like that's the spec is to have 3D printed parts. That's gonna work. So that is a slot that is made exactly for M4. And let's just check if this fits into a slot. Yes, there is still some space. So these screws are not too long. That would be an issue if you bottomed out those screws on the bottom of your aluminum extrusion, and not by tightening down. Oops, and not tightening them down onto the. I'm doing too many things at a time now. Sorry. There we go. And not bottom. You want these screws to be short enough to not reach the bottom of these slots. It's just a word I cannot say. Amazing. So with the hammer nuts, you do need to add them basically before. So you can see that the autofocus is working, but it's focusing on the reflection. Wow, there we go. So you do need to add these hammer nuts before you drop everything into place. So that's at least not going to fall out. Did you replace the Z-Drive print you cracked last time? I did not crack a print last time. At least I don't remember cracking one. Pulled the insert in pretty far, but that's not really an issue, I'd say. Is that a Knipex brand deal? No, these are my private, like non-business pliers that I bought 15 years ago, maybe? I don't know if these are actually 15 years old, but they are very nice pliers. I do like those. And in Germany, they're not that expensive even. There. There, come on. This is not the way this is intended to be built, but you know, with the kit, Like this was sort of expected that we're gonna have to need, well, that we're gonna have to have the need for some workarounds here and there. Well, the question is, are these rails in the correct spot? I would assume they are, and we are gonna find out when we, so that the rails underneath here go, oh, I've got them on the wrong way. I have them on the wrong way, okay. So these need to go perpendicular to the bottom bed rails. So these top DIN rails, they can still move. There's pretty large slots in these panels. You can still move around quite a bit, but for the electronics it doesn't really matter because it is literally just electronics that's going to be attached to those. For the top, or for the underside here, this is going to matter a bit more because you're attaching the bed onto that, which has predetermined holes for mounting. Panel is the wrong way now? What? So those go one way and these go the other way. That should be... You also need to rotate the panel. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I see what you guys mean. There we go. Just the whole spacing isn't square, so these need to come off again. Yeah. Thinking this is just one over. Yep, that's gonna work. It's tight on that side, but that is gonna be okay. Will I finish the build today? No. No, so that's gonna be another, I don't know, a while. So the build is a total of like 25 to 30 hours, depending on how good you are at building stuff, and apparently I'm not very good at this, so yeah, expect a couple more streams until we're actually finished. I'm not sure if I'm gonna actually stream every little bit of the build, or if I'm gonna shorten up stuff like... Now, is this oriented correctly? No, it is still not. Ah, there we go. Now we should be good. 3 different things that can be oriented wrong, and I managed to orient all 3 of them wrong. But yeah, there are still going to be a couple more streams. I'm not sure if I'm going to stream every little bit, like figuring out firmware configs. That might be something that's just not enjoyable to watch. I know there might be a lot of help and input from you guys, but just don't know if that makes a very watchable video. Or watchable stream, to be accurate. Okay, that should be correct now. So on the bottom we have the rails going like this. On the top we have them go like this. This is oriented between the 2 rails. That's good. And then the DIN rails go perpendicular. Whew! All right. Now where does this rail set get biased towards? So I'm just going to tighten it down as is. And if we need to adjust it, we can still do that. Nope, that one is loose. Still loose. That's why I hate hammer nuts. There we go, that's better. that one's tight, that one's tight, that one is tight, and that one is tight too. So I'm trying to press up the acrylic plate. That's good. Okay, whew. That was a tough one. There we go. So this is tightened down now, well, except for the bottom rails. Let me get those tight again as well. We're probably going to need to open this up again and adjust it later. All right. Still a bit noisy. Like I said, probably some foam tape between the thin rails and this panel and the aluminum extrusions and that panel. That would probably really help out with rattling and that sort of noise that we're generating here. Did the FormBot kit include the wrong type of thin rail? Yes, they did include the wrong type of thin rail. I guess they just saw, hey, we can buy some cheap thin rails here and we can include those. But the fact that there is a difference in thin rails in, in this case, how large the holes in the center are, they didn't really pay attention to that. So, yeah, that is unfortunate, but it is the way it is. And like I said, we are going to have to do workarounds like that during the build. Yeah, common issue with kits, just the supplier substituting one part for another and just looking at it and going, well, this is the same part on the surface, but not realizing how the part is actually used. That is a pretty common theme that I'm seeing with a lot of like cheap clone builds, cheap clones or kits that are supplied. Yeah. Next. So thin rails, that is done to a satisfactory standard. Okay, so next we get to attach the Z gearboxes. What are they called? Z drives to the frame. Flip the frame over and install the deck panel. Isn't that what we just did? Isn't that what we... Deck sandwich. Okay, we just installed the deck panel. Okay. So that's done. Next up, the Z drives. So first we install the Z drives, and there's a bit of detail visible here to where how these are oriented. So these are oriented like in the same facing direction as the rails that we've already got on the frame. And this is going to go on the bottom side as well, I would assume. So this... Yeah, also the manual says to install or to tape down your rails, but I did leave the factory stoppers in there so that those don't fall out, because that's that's pretty helpful. If these fall out, you will need a new carriage probably. Oh yeah, if we need more torque, there's the more torque. That is a lot of torque. So yeah, somebody was asking about prices. Andreas was asking for prices. Yeah, and Nero has basically answered that. I probably spent, so I'm probably using like $1,500 worth of parts with all the upgrades. The kit itself is $899, linked in the description, plus shipping, plus imports, plus all that. So the kit basically was €1,000 for me, and then plus the parts on top of that. You can do a more basic build, but I was like, well, if I'm gonna build a Voron, like why not pull all the tabs, pull all the stops, go all in. Alright, so these parts, which is these guys right here that we built yesterday, So they have an orientation, right? Yeah, so there's a left-handed and a right-handed, and they have, these are the two mounting holes, I assume. There's 4 of these to install. Here's 2 more. 4 of these to install, and they need to go on in the correct orientation, which I will try to do once I grab the correct screws. So that's the M5x40. Yeah, and I just want to point that out again, what Nero's saying. Like, there are no official kits. Like, all these kits are by vendors that are not associated or endorsed by Voron, by the Voron core team. And this is just the, you know, whatever company that wants to put a kit together, putting a kit together and selling it to you. And they may include parts that work, and they may include parts that do not work. I'm not sure if Voron is copyrighted or anything. That would at least provide some protection against brands doing or selling shoddy kits in the name of Voron or with the Voron name attached. So this is that is going to be a pain to film. Like, my perspectives are all off. Actually, no, hold on. What I can do, haha. I can grab this one. Yeah! Cropping into 4K. So that goes on. So the rail in here is facing, so 2 rails on here, they're facing each other. You can kind of see that these 2 rails are the ones that we're working on. These 2 are facing each other. And then we need these screw holes to be aligned. So that is the wrong one. That is the one that goes here. So we need these 2 screw holes to be aligned with that facing plane, and yeah, that looks good. The pulley is 90 degrees to this, and that just goes in with 2 of these guys, T-nuts. One, 2. That worked pretty well last time, so yep. Still does. And I guess these just get aligned with the end of this extrusion over here. Why aren't you going through? There we go. Just need some convincing. Oh, the screw came out with it. So this is going to be incredibly hard to show because it's at height level for me. I have no cameras installed at this height, and that is what you're seeing is just a pretty simple HDMI capture thing. I'm actually not even using as intended. So what I can show you is that perspective. I guess that works. Okay. Is there anything that snaps into position here? I think so. But it does feel like it kind of wants to align to the correct position by itself. Okay, that is on. Pulley still spins, that's good. And then over here on this side, we're going to have the motor somehow attached, which will be the next step. But let's try and get all these Z drive. How Oh, boo-boo. Let's get all these Z-drive units attached first. So then this one is the one that goes over here. Tom's random attached noise cancellation presented by the Voron. By the what? I am not following. How did I do this? Just like that with the... Yeah. So apparently there are a bunch of machines that are basically switchwire or Voron copies. So those... Oh yeah, it does have a bit of alignment on the bottom. Are those machines actually sold with the Voron brand, or are those just like Voron copies that lack the name? There we go. That actually aligns. It feels like it aligns by itself a bit with that little tab it has on the bottom. GPL violation. I'll probably. Seems like he always scratches inspired by. Okay. Well. So that is, yeah, as solid as it gets, I guess. There's going to be a bit of flex to this. The motor is going to be pulling on this belt. Can I? I'm too short. I can't reach the lens to focus. Sorry. But that should be good. And this I don't think needs to be like super duper mega rigid. He always seems to scratch his new work surface as well. The good thing is this is oak. This is a slab of oak or a glue blam piece of oak. And when I do scratch it, I can sand it down and I can refinish it. That is the goal. I could not do that with the old work surface I had in here before. Camera? The reflections is throwing it off. That's something I'm starting to notice. So that's good. We can do that. And then this goes on here. And this one goes on here, like that maybe. Have I looked into the Ratrig, VCore, or some other printer? I have not looked into those yet. I want to get the Voron finished first, and then we can look into what we're going to build next. Maybe I can take a quick break at some point. Well, maybe I can take a break between builds and just optimize the setup. Like this is kind of not great, right? Having no overhead camera that's like capable. That's not great to film this sort of stuff. What are the rails on the bottom for? These guys, these yellow anodized galvanized rails, those are DIN rails. It's commonly used in, I guess the UK calls them consumer units, fuse boxes, where we mount, or at least Europe, Germany, I guess, specifically mounts fuses and RCDs and just, you know, anything house wiring related gets mounted to these rails in electrical panels. And that's kind of what these are going to be used for here as well. And that is for mounting the electronics of this printer. I don't think these are specifically made to attach like large PCBs as we're going to attach them, but they work for that. They're modular, right? You can use them however you want. Also used in industrial control cabinets. Yeah, sure. Basically, I mean, if you look at the, no, wrong. If you look at the panels, and I mean, this house was built in 1989, I think. It's all DIN rails already. It's 3-phase, 3-phase 400 volt effective, so 3 230 volt phases. Everything has an RCD, everything is properly fused. Like, that's just the standard stuff that we've got here. Okay, do we have, just a quick double check, do we have everything in the correct orientations? I think we do. So these are oriented with the belt coming out the side, out the side, out the side, and out the side. That should be good. Standing desk for base of workbench so you can lower the work to cam. So motorized desk is what he's saying, Kaz FPV. I don't like how wobbly motorized desks are. I have one at my editing desk, but you know, this is I can't show you, but those IKEA like tri or A-frame legs, those are super solid. Those are attached to a custom base of this table, so this is built to be unreasonably rigid. And because what I hate is when I see videos where just the stuff on a table keeps wobbling around. That is not great. So I tried to build this as solidly as possible. Okay. Install bottom deck panel. We've got these. Next up, the motors. So I got the frame out of the way for a second. One, two. Okay, we're gonna need the motors themselves. We have those here. And we will need that little bird's mouth, which I believe is in here in the accent parts. And that, I think, is the tensioner as well. There's 4 of these. Till S, this is a mix of a kit build and a set of upgrade parts, so it's both. I got the kit as a base, which is why we have all these labeled bags, but I did substitute a lot of the parts for better ones. Okay, here comes the frame again. Hold on, I'm gonna jump on this table real quick and make sure it's a bit more in nope. It's a bit more in focus. That? I think that's better. Still a bit out of focus, but did we change anything at all? Anyways. So we need these. We need these. And they need to get attached. So so last time we did not attach the pulleys to the motors. So these are still loose because these need to be adjusted to be in line with the belt of these larger pulleys. So we're going to need to attach these and lock them in place. But basically these go, let me see, so there is, all right, so these have this part here. I'm hoping I can, nope. Basically this part here, this has one side where it's flat against the profile and one side where there's a little space, where there's a little, actually we can maybe see that here even, yeah. So this side has a space underneath it, right there, and that's where that bird's mouth is going to go. And this side sits against the profile directly. Basically, I'm thinking this goes in here, right? It might be the wrong side. And then as you twist this, it pushes the motor away and it tensions that belt. But of course, we need to assemble this onto the correct side of the printer. And the side with that cutout, with that spacing, That one goes towards that gearbox. Okay, so there's two versions of these parts. One has the cutout on that side. That's the same one. And this one has the cutout on the other side. So one goes here. These are pre-wired with 1 meter cable. I'm going to need to recrimp this. This goes here, and then this goes here. That goes back there, and this one goes here. Right. How do I get this on camera? You know, a lot of the time spent on these live streams is just trying to find perspectives and good angles for showing off the stuff that I'm doing. So, for example, right here, that's a beautiful shot. That's going to work. But it took me a bit to find. So that almost butts up against. Actually, the motor right now is touching that gearbox. Basically, you can see as like a. Oh, does this part actually push off of the? That would be smart. Yeah, it does. It does. Okay, that's pretty good. Right. So of course this guy still needs to get tightened down, but we can actually do that once we've got everything mounted. Then we can tighten these down. So step one would be again to get some of these T-nuts in. Then M5 by 10. That's these. Previous version had variable tensioning for Z motors. This led to variances causing defects. Now it's a fixed tensioning arm, so all Z belts are the same. Okay, so yeah, I was wondering about that because there is no, like typically with a tensioner you would, like, that's the wrong size, you would actually want to adjust tension depending on how tight your setup is. With this, it's just, well, we are moving the motor, we're assembling everything, and then we are moving the motor a defined amount away from its original point. So with that little red tensioner part, this is the wrong one. It's also the wrong one. With this little red tensioner part that gets inserted here, there's just a fixed distance that it pushes that part away. So the belt is, at this point, it's tight, basically. But it's not overly tight, like it's not jacked down, basically. How does this get assembled? So, yeah, lightly secure the motor assemblies to the frame using the M5 fastener. We have more steps before we can fully tighten these. Okay. So these don't... Oh, those are the two more steps. Okay. So both screws get tightened down. That is impossible to see. So two screws in here. Both of these get tightened down to a point where they're kind of snug and stuff can still sort of slide around, but then you plonk down the tensioner and that's the point where you can think about fully tightening them down. If I can find the hole for it, maybe. A lot of instances of over-tightening, I guess. Yeah, belts are the tendency for belts is always, or for assembling belts is always, hey, I want to have these as tight as possible. And that, I guess, makes sense for instances where you have a very long belt, maybe, or a belt that has a lot of flex to it. But especially when you have Gates belts already. Did I just slide that underneath the other guy? No, I did not. But when you have Gates belts, I don't think you actually need to tighten it down that much. Oh, we need the red accent piece first. This one, and then screw goes in, and then we can tighten this down, or at least, yeah, get it semi-snug. Okay, so now that is tightened down. That's this step where we have both screws in, and well, before closing the tensioner, now we close the tensioner. That tensions the belt. That feels okay tension-wise. Like, of course, you could always go a bit harder on the tension, but I think functionally this is going to be very much on the fine side. And then our grub screws at the top. Now we can tighten these down and make sure this motor doesn't move anymore. So this red piece is basically not under tension anymore, and just the screws are doing the tensioning and holding everything in place. Okay, I will do the grub screws later. I'll do those all at the same time. Okay, one down, 3 more to go. That's a recurring theme. Like, hey, we've got one thing done, we've figured it all out, and now we can do it 3 more times, now that we kind of know how to do it. And actually, you know what? I'm just going to assemble these away from the black on black. Wow. That's very tight to assemble these. So I'm just going to assemble this somewhere in the middle of this rail. There we go. That's the correct part. And then slide it over, because this is a lot easier to align everything, and to especially align the screws with the T-nut that is already in the frame. There we go, all easy. Now I can move this around without having to slide the T-nut around. So just the second one of these. Perfect. Now this can move back here. Now that's already in the tightened position. There we go. I can spin up the motor's axle so that we're facing up, as is this one. And then hopefully I can still get the belt on. Yes, I can. Perfect. Now this gets closed down, and these guys get tensioned down. That was a lot easier. That was a lot easier.
I made a sourcing sheet for a 350 cubic millimeters fully maxed Voron 2.4 yesterday. It is about $1,800 before.
Thanks for the 5, Carl. Yeah, that's the thing with the self-source parts. It's hard, that's something with self-sourcing in general that's not limited to Voron parts. It's like, okay, I can get these parts in nice quality and I can get these parts in really nice quality, but do I like really need the nicest possible version of that, or would it be okay if I got the ones that are maybe a bit less nice? And usually it's like, well, you know, might as well take the upsell. So I mean, $1,800 for a full 3 and a kit, I guess is on the is on the mid to high range of what a build like that can cost. But hey, you're probably gonna end up with a beast of a machine. 14-inch bed isn't common. I guess, yeah. All those parts do start to add up. So you go here. Where did my pulley go? There it is. This goes on, this goes on. Well, rotate the shaft. Get the pulley on, and there we go. Tension it. Screw it down. Nice. So this FormBot kit for the 300, this is a 300mm size, came with a what feels like a PEI coated bed. I was told it works reasonably well. It works well enough to print stuff onto. It also came with an aluminum plate that may or may not warp. I don't know, but I substituted a nicer one anyways. Yeah, once you start adding those upgrade parts, it does start to add up. T-nuts first. My building skills go down about 25% with the camera on. It's more than that. Because right now I'm not, the thing you have to realize, right now I'm not building a printer. Right now I'm producing a live stream for your enjoyment. That is my first and that is my primary task right now. To entertain all of you who are watching and to make sure you're getting something out of this and you're getting a good angle and you're getting to see what I'm doing. The printer is just basically a side product of this video, of this stream. So for the most part, I'm not really focusing on the printer build too much. I'm focusing on reading chat. I'm focusing on making sure the cameras are good. I'm making sure what I'm talking about makes some amount of sense. Usually it doesn't make too much sense, but hey, you guys watch anyways. Or I don't know, maybe you guys just watch on mute because you don't want to hear my blabbering about. But yeah, that's something that you have to realize. This is...
When it comes to RRF configuration, have a look in the pins in hashtag duet_RRF on Discord. Also, have a beer.
Okay, that was a weird way to text-to-speech that. Yeah, but you have to... Whoops. Yeah, as I'm already messing up with the tensioner open, you have to realize this is... There are so many things, so many other things going on in my head that are not building a printer, that are not related to building a printer. So, yeah, my build competence goes down by probably a lot more than 25%. Maybe if I had a co-host here that would do that job of entertaining. Maybe if I had a camera operator, I don't know, maybe that would help. But as it is just me doing the job of 4 people at the same time, which is also why I'm done after 3-ish hours. Where that's like my limit of where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna call this quits. This is not enjoyable for me anymore, and I'm stopping to make sense. I'm starting to make less sense than I do already. So here we go. Thread lock. Didn't check the manual, but I'm guessing. Okay, it doesn't say when to adjust, but I'm guessing this would be a good time to adjust the pulleys. Manual doesn't explicitly say anything, but since we left these loose before, thinking there's no better time than now. Trying to center this somewhat. Okay. That looks centered enough to me.
Cameraman fund.
Thanks for the 5. Yeah, eventually. We already put out a job listing, at least for someone to edit some more stuff. But the thing is, like, I live in the middle of nowhere, more or less. and finding someone with that particular skill set locally is kind of hard. So remote editing is a possibility. It's something that's totally plausible. I might need to change my workflow to make that work, but you know, things you do. Additional help with camera, that might be a bit tougher. The Voron is only a side product. Yeah, I mean that's the reality of it, right? My job is to make sure you guys are entertained. That is my primary job. My job is not building 3D printers. But of course, I mean, when you get to build a 3D printer as a side product, that is nice. Okay. You should be good as well. Let's get you over there. And I don't know if you can see that. No, you can. Well, I guess you can right there. That's the belt on the small pulley. That is looking good. And then the last one. You should build the camera arm from Mr. Chappell. No, Chappell is the other guy. Sure, but I don't have the space for it. This studio is rather small and already cramped with 2 screens there for chat and stuff. The camera there, lighting. There's just, this is like a 20 square meter, if that. I think it was more like 15 to 20 square meter basement room. So I don't have space for that arm. I wish I had, but I don't. Okay. Whew. Joys of being a one-man content creator. Yep. Interestingly, so what I'm noticing is the directions that these motor wires exit the motor. So these all go counterclockwise, basically. I'm not sure if the manual said anything specific about which way these motor cables come out the back for this sort of mirrored configuration, but I all assembled them with the kind of same clocking.
In the auto industry, I got a question. If I put some Adderall into a Ford Fiesta, does it make it a Ford Focus? Thoughtful face. Thoughtful face.
Thanks for the 5, Kyle, but I don't think that it works that way. Maybe if you put some sugar in the tank, it's going to get a bit more chill. Gonna make a lot less noise for sure. Okay. Belt tensioner. Belt is tensioned. Belts are tensioned. 4 motors, 4 belts, 4 thread locks.
You are very wise in recognizing that your main focus online should be to entertain. Many streamers seem not to know that.
Thank you for the 5, Oliver. Yeah, I wish it was different. I wish it was more like, hey, I get to do cool stuff and people watch that. But if you just do cool stuff and don't present it in a cool way, then that just doesn't work out. Not that I'm like the best entertainer or the best presenter or anything, but apparently there's something about what I do and how I do it that people like to watch. So that works out. Next up, we get to build the Angry Z Idler. This is, so the Voron team have officially called these the Angry Z Idlers. So I get to call them that as well. Look, I don't know if that is an intentional design part where it's got like those little eyebrows, but this is, there is some robot character that has that exact face look. What is that? I've got it faintly in the back of my head. They're idlers, yeah. Dad jokes. What is that character? No, it's not. It's not Wally. It is definitely not Wally. Wally looks a lot cuter than that. Let me grab the parts for those real quick. I think I've already got them. Yep. Johnny 5. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Bender, I guess I can see that. So here's the parts in the flesh. They do have those little eyebrows in the printed parts as well, so it's not just in the manual to make it look cute. No, it's for real. We need that. We need. Ah, God, what is that other part? Nope. That is going to be fun to find now. So the printed parts were sorted into 3 different bags. I've got bag number 2 here. Because we've basically... It's not these, is it? No. Nope. That's all extruder parts, it looks like. XY parts. Are those accent pieces then? I know what.
Any chance? Hear the voice say Murph.
Oh, there they are. Okay, accent color pieces. Labeled X Optium. I think that is all these brands. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Thanks for the 5, Darren. Asking any chance you're coming to Murph. I will not be coming to Murph this year. Just, I don't know. I don't think that would be enjoyable yet. Just, I don't feel like the world is in a spot right now, or in a spot yet that would make international travel, like, reasonable. I mean, of course, that's for everyone to decide for themselves, but I wouldn't feel good traveling internationally and sitting in a metal tube for 8 hours right now. Next year. This year, that is a pretty firm no from me, unfortunately. There's those. There's the parts assembled. So those are accent colored printed little idler brackets. So we are gonna need the idlers, which are in this box, I believe. There's the bed screws. That's 2 idlers. We need 4. Did they not include enough idlers? Now that must be the idlers for XY then. Bearings. No idlers here. Did they not include those? Oh, there they are. There. So there's 2 different idlers for XY, I assume then. And then you've got these for the Z-axis. These seem pretty wide. But I guess they are spec'd as 9mm. And yeah, I mean, yeah, that's going to be a 9mm belt. Yeah, that's 6. And the others are 9mm wide. That's a pretty wide belt for the Z-axis, considering there's no real dynamic forces on that axis. So these we need an M3 nut, we need an M3 by 16 for the tensioning. I like that. You see what they're doing here? Basically, the tensioning action for that Z belt is going to be like that, and then there's going to be the idler in here. And then as you tension that M3 bolt, that entire thing gets pulled up. So it starts out like that, and then it gets pulled up, and the belt goes on the bottom here. So that is a rigid tensioning mechanism, which I really like. Of course, that makes it pretty easy to over-tension things, but it's not like using those, what do they call it? Clothespin springs that would basically just add more elasticity to your system. This is built to be rigid. That is nice. That's the M3s. We need M3 by 16. Socket head, yep. And some nuts. Washers. Nope. Where's my nuts? Hex nuts, there we go. Don't forget to loosen the M5 before tensioning the belt. That is a good point. Because I guess those M5s, those do clamp the tensioning mechanism in place then. Oh, that's too many. 3 by 16. I mean, I do have an assortment of nuts behind me as well. That's what I said. Like, if, you know, yesterday I said, okay, if I don't want to use these, like, filthy, greasy, look at this. The label is already oily. If I don't want to use these filthy, greasy screws that they are including, I can always go in here and go like, okay, I need an M3 by 16. Boom, there's 50 stainless steel M3 by 16, M3 by 10, 40s is also something you need. Boom, full assortment. This one's like, so I've got this all the way, there's another 2 of these that I have that go all the way to M8. That was like $200 to put together, but it is so worth it. Just having all the different screw sizes at hand when you need them, so good. Why did I grab 3 of these? We need 4. M3 by 16, M5 by 30, and then we need some more. Hold on, what are these screws? Nope, what are these screws up top here? That's the M5 by 30, okay. It's more M5 by 30s that go into T-nuts then. So 12 total of these.
Always good to be able to find your nuts. Have a drink on me.
Thank you for the 5, Michael. Who did I miss? Say have a beer meeting. Oh yeah, I think I missed Christoph earlier on. Have a look in the pins and do it RRF on Discord. Have a look in the pins. Okay, I mean the idea with the setup for the Do It 3 in this was, does this have an orientation? It does. Hold on, I need to concentrate here a second. So that goes like this, and then basically from the right side when you look at the face, like that. Like that. Yeah, so basically the RepRap firmware has an online configuration tool that gives you a full config basically. There you go. And with the RepRap, with the Do It 3, you can basically configure any pin to do pretty much any function, unless it's of course thermistors which need pull-up resistors, etc. But for end stops, etc., you can use all the pins, and you just say, okay, I've got this plugged into that port, into that pin. And that's that. And I don't think that is going to be too hard to set up. M3 first. Oh yeah, there is a... You're right. You're right. Thank you for that. See, that's why I use a power tool for this. On the topic of power tools, I did order a Bosch Go. So Nero actually tweeted at me and was like, hey, yeah, you should use some proper power tools for this if you're going to use some power tools. And he was looking into the ES 1-to-1 electric screwdrivers, which are just super tiny, at least for what I'd consider larger, smaller. Those are just super tiny little stick screwdriver electric thingies. And I feel like those are on the weak side of being, you know, usable for assembling this sort of stuff. I mean, this is an M3 screw that is maybe, yeah, that it would be able to torque down, but as soon as you have an M5 or something larger, I don't think it would do very well with that. Also, they're pretty slow. So apparently Bosch also make a tool that would fit into that electric screwdriver, not drill driver, which is this with a chuck. I also have a Bosch that has just the 1/8 inch, quarter inch bit adapter in it. But that is also more of a driver. I'm talking like literal stick-shaped electric screwdriver. And Bosch makes one, the Bosch Go, which has decent RPM and it has decent torque. It's not as small as those wow sticks or the ES 1-to-1s. So basically, that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm ordering for this build specifically, and hopefully that's going to be here tomorrow. Hammerhead HSCD 224. Well, what? ES 1-to-1 is great for M3 stuff. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. So this Ryobi driver, I don't love this. I bought this because I needed something in the studio back when I still had a separate studio space. I needed some sort of driver in the studio that would kind of do the job of that Bosch, because the Bosch is basically my private tool that I have here in my private rooms. But yeah, I needed something like that, and the Ryobi was $70 with 2 batteries, and that seemed like an okay deal. But you know, with using it, actually it turns out it is not that great. The clutch is not very sensitive. It's kind of noisy. Come on. It's pretty bulky, which makes controlling it pretty hard. And yeah, I just want to try the Bosch for now. Last chance I'm giving Bosch. So far I've not been very happy, or not been happy at all with the Bosch tools. They've always failed after 3 years or so. Even though they are out of the professional range, the blue range, which I charge like 30% more for than the green tools, which for the most part are identical. But they always failed right outside of warranty, and I wasn't using them very hard. So, yeah. Last chance for that. Yeah, the clutch in these is basically, from what I've seen from taking them apart, basically 2 plates that are pushed together with balls in the center. So you have a spring pushing those 2 plates together. And as the torque gets too large, it snaps out of those spots where the balls sit in, and that's what you get with that clicking noise. It's basically those 2 plates getting pushed apart. And I guess, yeah, I guess you could pull those, or you could decrease the tension in that spring, but I'm not sure if I'm going to get this thing back together after I do that. You're not sure if I missed those super chats a couple minutes ago from Michael. Oh yeah, I did get the one from Michael, but thank you for the 2 British pounds, Jay. Hopefully you have found your nuts as well. Okay, so that is all these parts, or all these tensioners built. There are 2. I'm gonna just put these upside down. 2 with this little slot that I guess goes into one of the profiles, one of the aluminum extrusions, like that and like that. And we do need to put these into the correct spots. So they go as expected with that slot into the adjacent profile. And they go in plane with the plane between the rails. So we have the rails right here. That is one of those 2 rails. Rail here. And these go in that same plane. So like this, not like this. Which means this one would go here. Yep. So there is that. We need to get some more of the T-nuts in here. How far apart are these? Not too bad. Oh, how did I get that one in without using anything? Wow. Okay, that one's not that great. So I'm hoping I'm not going to hear that while printing. That would be quite annoying when or should the frame just keep on ringing like that. Hank B, why do I do the T-nuts like that? Because that is the only way that I found to get them in reliably. They are pretty tricky to tilt into place because that's what you have to do. And using the tip of the pliers just lets me latch that plier tip into the thread like that, and I can just tip it in, and that works. So you can't just push them in. You can't just push them, and you actually have to tilt them into place, and this seems to be the exact perfect size. So from what I see, okay, so you can still get at the M3 screw that's in here. I mean, I guess it would be kind of pointless. Actually grab the correct bit, I could. So you can still get at this M3 screw in here to tension stuff up, but you need to undo these 2 M5 screws to actually unlock it. So I guess it would, yeah, this would wiggle around a bit. I guess you can also completely take it out. Yeah. So you can unscrew this too much if you want to. So for now, I'm thinking these should be just ever so slightly tight. Hold on, Nero mentioned that. Oh yeah, it does clamp it down just a tiny amount. So you can still pull these up once you lock it to the frame, but they are not. Yeah, you can still tighten this with these screws down. So the next one goes back here, and that one goes on like this. So same thing again. That goes in here, and then we just tip it into place. And what I found works really well is just to do one of these and to kind of get it caught and then slide it over the other one and get that caught instead of trying to align the T-nuts like somewhere back here where they're going to be impossible to slide the other way or to slide around. And then basically you can just tighten them down. You can slide them around once they're attached to the part. And then tighten it down when it's in place. So now, let me show you again because we still have 2 more corners to do. So same corner again. Over here. Oh, I'm actually focusing on the wrong corner, but we can, let's do this one then. So T-nut, that's the T-nut. Looks like such, and then it goes in here, and you basically have to tilt it in place, and then it locks in place with a spring-loaded ball. That might be hard to see, but that's a little spring-loaded ball that keeps it sort of at least in place. It keeps it from sliding around by itself. Like, you can still slide it around if you need to. That's great about them. But yeah, it keeps it from falling around, I guess. So that's in there at least. And then next one, just getting that caught. There we go. And now both of those nuts are attached to the idler part in this case. Yeah, and these are so much better than the hammer nuts, which I did have to use on the DIN rails to attach them from the bottom, because the kit included the wrong size DIN rails, and I didn't have any of the M4 T-nuts that I would need to use an M4 screw. Instead, they just included M5 sized components. And the M5 screws were too large for the DIN rails that they included. I'm hoping that's going to focus in a second once I start working on it. Yeah. Why you can camera, you can no. Yes. Okay, 1 second. Let me just grab those nuts. What is the build volume? 300 by 300. At least that is the official size that I'm building. The 2.4, I mean, I guess you could print it as large as you wanted to, but the officially supported sizes are 300, which is the mid-size, 250 by 250 by 250, and 350 cubed. And I just went for the mid-size because it feels like it's the correct size for the printer. Like I said yesterday, this doesn't feel like a huge, massive, humongously space-consuming printer. This is maybe desk space-wise about on par with Meninda 3, Prusa, etc. And of course, if you go one size up, you do extend stuff like the length of your belts and the length of the profiles that have to support themselves. So you do include, or you do introduce some wobble, you do reduce rigidity, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, like, well, let's at least try and build a 300 millimeter size when we're already going through the work of building one of these. Oh, I forgot. I do have some tea. This is well steeped now. Probably pretty cold. Still good though. Honeybush. Still liking this stuff. Cheers. If you're having a drink as well. Let's see. We've got the idlers assembled. Next up, the bed. So that's a picture of the bed and the heater and the thermal fuse. Do we attach the heater now? I guess we do, yeah. I guess we attach that now. See, I mean, the manual here is a bit sparse in a few spots. Like it entirely leaves out any spots where you need a T-nut. Just assumes like, hey, you're gonna attach this to a frame somehow. You're probably gonna think of using a T-nut. Sorry if that was loud and shattered some of your eardrums, but shattered mine as well. You're probably going to need a T-nut here. That's something you have to think about yourself. And also, like attaching the heater, that's something that is not really included in the instructions. So far, the instructions are hard to get wrong. I'm going to say that it's hard to like really mess up and build stuff wrong if you pay some attention. There's no ambiguity. Like you can't really assemble things wrong. That's what I'm trying to say. That's the wrong trash bin. But the instructions are pretty bare bones, even though they are pretty and they're very visually accurate and descriptive. You know, that they're not the most detailed instructions you could have. So we shall combine a bed, and I hope I'm correct in assuming that this is the underside, with the slots. Come on. With the slots going in like that. I do hope this is the underside. I would assume it is. Yeah, it also has the counter bores in here, so I'm guessing that's the top. That, I guess, is the back. So we have, let's see, thermal fuse. There is one hole here. There's two holes here. So this is a universal build plate that I got from Fermio Labs. So this does have a couple extra holes that are for attaching it to a Voron 1 or something. Let me just double check. So, no, that's what I wanted. Okay, so that looks like the counter bore is towards the front. So I have the back side facing towards me, which is what I want. So this is going to go on here. I don't like the fact that this is so much smaller. Like you can see, there's plenty of space. That this could have been bigger even if you used these screw holes, which I don't think you need to. Actually, I think it should go this way then, maybe. Yeah, so the edges are going to be a bit cooler. It's not going to be that big of an issue, I've heard, but it's not going to be fantastic either. This is a 230 volt heater, a 220 in this case, it says. So it goes onto, it goes through a solid state relay and gets connected directly to the mains here. Put the magnet first if it's in the kit. Fermio also has heaters with the exact size. Well, so I can always rip this back off. These don't stick onto that well. So yeah, you can see the surface finish there. Has this been lapped? I don't know if this is a lapping finish, but it is well finished. It could be a lapping finish. Doesn't look like it's a milling finish because these are the radius on these lines is pretty large. Yeah, and that is the build plate that is included. That's the texture level on it. So this is from the kit. This is from the FormBot kit. The bed is from the FormBot kit as well. This bed I have ordered separately from Fermio. So this goes on first, but the thing is, like, do I need these? Do I need to get to these? I don't think I do. double check. Let me just double check. So we've got these mounting points that can slide in from the side. You can easily trim the magnet once applied. That is true, yeah. Oh yeah, we'll need to, because these are socket heads, I will need to get to the... Or will I? I guess I can always cut it to size. Yeah, that's how these are mounted. And then the nozzle switch. Okay, and then next up we do X, Y, Z. So we will need to attach the thermal fuse somewhere, but that's one of these threaded holes, I assume, that we have. So there are two M3 threaded holes here. So I'm looking at the front right now. That's going to go in from the back. Dev suggestion. You can drill a wrench access hole into the magnet or just cut sluts into it. Okay. Okay. The thing is, once I glue this down, this is permanent. You know, this is not something I can rip back off and readjust. Oh yeah, by the way, this is the film that it says it has, which is a 3M 300 LSE. Is that a V8? Supposedly it's 3M, but I don't know. So my standard cleaning solution, ethanol with a bit of water. Water takes off anything that is like PVA and stuff, and the ethanol takes off everything else. Okay, so this is going to have a bit of overlap on the sides. I guess I just go for it. Should be 468 MP. Yeah, I mean, I guess 300 LC is cheaper. So I've peeled off about a third, and I'm just trying to align it. Before I stick it all down, do I have something to squeegee this out? Just gonna scratch it. Ah, that's good. That's a PCB. The thing with these adhesive films is, yeah, they're great to stick stuff down like this, but it is also incredibly easy to get a bubble into these, and that bubble will never come out. And you're not going to be able to see it with an opaque magnet film especially. That, I think, was also a problem with some of the load spot on glass heaters. Well, it wasn't... I don't want to say it was a problem with the load spot heaters, it was a problem with all the heaters, but it was just very visible on load spot because they were using glass. And you could just see those bubbles forming and kind of growing in size over time. I think that should be on pretty well. And the important thing with these, from what I've learned with applying films and PI films in the past and stuff like that, is to start at the center, to slowly peel the adhesive backing off from behind it. Start in the center and then always work your way out from kind of the same axis in the center. So you squeeze the bubbles out. If you squeeze towards the inside, not only are you going to get the bubbles towards the inside, but if you have like an excess of material, you're going to get a crease in the center where it starts to poke up. So if you go towards the outside, you will work the material away from where you're trying to stick it down, and it's going to get a much cleaner and smoother application in the end. So I think that should be on there well enough. is flat. So I was told this bed may or may not last, especially at temperature. Not sure what these are rated for. I've destroyed these. I've destroyed the adhesive backing, which in this case is 468 MP. I've destroyed these by just pushing too much temperature, or pushing them at too high of a temperature. But yeah, it's also the magnetic material in here, the magnet itself, that might fail, simply because it's not a high temperature material in the end. Yeah. DB3D. I've already answered that question a minute ago. I think I could go to Murph, especially on like technically business reasons. You can go anywhere if you need to go there on business, but I wouldn't feel good traveling internationally right now yet. Next year, sure. This year I'm just not going to be there. Wouldn't be a feel good experience. So unfortunately, no, I'm not going to be at Murph this year. Okay. Heater goes on. Also, let me grab the grab the thermal fuse. There's that. Ow. 125C. Wow. Is that what this is? Is that the spec part? So 125 degrees Celsius on the thermal fuse. Am I going to be limited to 125 on the bed? That's correct. That's correct. Okay. Okay. So I guess I get to pick one of these spots. It's going to be on the outside, so it will be, I guess if this is at 150, then on the outside here, this is not going to be at 125 yet. Would make sense to put this on the side where the cables come off. Actually, hold on. No, it doesn't matter. 4 points. It's not a threaded hole. I'm just gonna go with there. That looks fine. That's gonna be entirely on the bed. I'm gonna grab some thermal paste real quick. Then I guess we need a large washer for this to actually clamp down. Thermal paste. Thermal paste. Be right back. Yeah, I just grabbed some Noctua NTH1. I think that's appropriate, right? So how does this get stuck down? Okay. How does this get clamped down? We need an M3. Hold on. Is there anything in the manual about the fuse? Nope. Nope. So let's see. Let's see what we have as far as washes and stuff goes. M3x8. Let's start with that. Yep. Oh, I do have the DIN 9021. That is exactly what we need for this. Ha! It's in the wiring part, but we're already installing the bed then. We're already installing the bed now. But where is it? This is DIN or ISO. I'm not sure. 9021. Large M3 washer. This is exactly what we need because it does fit snugly over that hole, over the, there we go, over this thing. Yep, and this still sticks out, so let's go with that. So yeah, since we are going to install the bed right now, I'm going to install this right now. No thread lock on this connection because probably wouldn't hurt to hot tighten it, but thread lock at temperature is not a good combination, and it might be a good idea to mount this elastically somehow. But thread lock is not going to lock anymore once it's hot. This is like a ceramic body. Probably some elastic element up here would be a good idea, but all right. So let's get this cleaned off and get the bed installed as well. Technique for using or for adding a bed thermistor. Yeah, I did have the E3D style bed thermistor video at some point. I guess that would work pretty well here as well because you do have a pretty thick slab of aluminum that you could insert a thermistor into. The standard style of thermistor with a cartridge thermistor, of course, would require a longish hole drilled into the side, and that would work. That would definitely work. But I think for now I'm just going to stick with the one on the bed for now. So since I'm not sure how long I'm going to keep this guy on here anyways, not going to worry too much about how exactly I apply this and if it's perfectly centered, because it's too small anyways. There are even 3M or M3 threaded thermistor cartridges. Yeah, there are thermistor cartridges, M3 size, those brass ones that have the thermistor potted in the back. The problem is those act as basically a standoff and a heatsink. So they're going to read fairly inaccurate numbers if you use them. They were used on hot ends a while ago, a long while ago. But for that application, they were just too, well, not accurate enough, and the potting would keep falling out, so not great at that. I think for a heated bed they could work, they should work, but I'm okay with what we have here. Okay. Is that a blade? No, that is a PCB. That is of a There you go. I was going to say, why is this mirrored? This is from a set of PCBs that I ordered at some point that were basically meant as like universal adapter PCB. Oh, actually got the Tom Sweeter logo on the back. That were meant as like universal adapter PCBs that you have your wiring loom come in from this side with no connectors and just use like spring-loaded connectors on this side going that way. And then you have your terminals that you can plug all sorts of stuff into. That was the idea with these. Never used them because they ended up being a bit too large to fit in a toolkit. You'd need two of these, one black, the other one is white, that has the other connections on it. Just ended up being too large. All right, that's on. So next up, trim the mag sheet. There's some adhesive out here. So one in here. What did I do to that blade? There's one. There's two. I mean, this is pretty thick. And that's not as easy to cut as I thought it would be. Hold off on trimming. That's how you're supposed to remove those. Well, I mean, there's usually like a tool or something in here that makes it easier. I'm just going to keep on trimming a bit here because we will need to get to these screws, to these locations in a minute anyways. Always cut away from yourself unless you're working in a tight space, then you're okay to cut your fingers. Okay, but that's working pretty well. By the way, Tajima blades, fantastic. 100% can recommend them. So these are somehow black oxide coated, but they are properly hardened. They're incredibly sharp. So much better than your regular cutter knife blades. Of course, this is not the correct knife for this. You would use a bit more of a precision tool, I guess, to cut these out if you wanted to do it properly, but hey, this works surprisingly well too. Nero saying, wait to install the bed until later, until you need it. A lot of dead weight. Okay, so I'll skip the bed for now. But I'll just finish up on trimming here, since I'm already added. I mean, this doesn't need to be super precise or anything, right? Because it's going to get covered by the build plate anyways. Okay, and the last one. There we go. I guess I could chamfer these edges a bit to get everything to sit down, to get it to sit down flush, but we'll worry about that when we come to it. So supposedly in a couple of steps we would be installing the bed, but we're going to skip that. Instead, we have assembled the bed. So the bed has the mag sheet up front that is going to attach to our build plate. That sticks on pretty well. Got the heater on the back, we got the thermal fuse on the back, and we've got the thermistor already in the heater mat. So that should be a functioning bed assembly. So what I was thinking about earlier with people asking about how large this printer is going to be. Technically, this is a 300 by 300 by 300 millimeter build, but there are going to be some deficiencies in how large it can actually print. For example, well, I don't know how much headroom there is in the stock spec of 300 millimeters, whether there is some leeway, some allowance for, I don't know, a thicker bed or something. So a 300, nominally 300 would actually go to 310 or something. But because I'm going to be using the longer Mosquito Magnum Plus, and this this heated bed is already, I think, a millimeter or two thicker than the bed that was included in the kit, that might have already eaten into the build space that I have. So it's not going to be like exactly 300 by 300 or 300 millimeters in height. The 300 by 300 in XY might be more accurate, but 300-ish more likely. Yeah, probably 270 as Paul says. That seems about right. Okay, next up. D-flange. Yep. A GT2 20 tooth. Check our help videos in Discord if you need help removing the flange for the 20 tooth pulley. Let me grab a 20 tooth pulley if I can find one. Is one of these? Black ones. That's idlers. Just 3 random black pulleys. I guess this is the ones. And just in case I mess this up, I do have some more spare pulleys should we ruin one in the process. Also got, so that was mixed sizes. This is all the 16 tooth ones that I have. So this looks like 20, even though the bag was non-labeled. I have pulled these off in the past, and what I did was just grab it by the side and kind of shear it off. So that doesn't seem to work all that well. So first off, probably gonna need something to hold it. Which one? No, that's the one that I started on. It's probably a help video on how to do this better, but put screwdriver through hole. Well, too late. And then we grab a larger ply. I guess I could just lever this off like that. That works. So that was easy enough. Came right off. I'm just hoping this was a 20. I think it was. But there's that. So this 20 is not going to be used as a pulley from what I've seen. So what this is going to be, okay, so important notice, we have specified a notch to be cut into the Z end stop pin along with the grub screw. This is simply to prevent it from falling out if you tilt your machine to do work on in the future. This does happen even to the best of us and can result in nozzle strike when significant with significant. Did you cut and size this pin as your last step in your build process? Oh, okay. So I take it that is this one pin that is included again as an unlabeled bag. That looks like just a precision ground pin or something. If it's hardened though, that might be hard to cut a notch into it. And that is hardened, from what I can tell. I mean, I do have an angle grinder, so should be good there. Securing the grub screw. Please ask in Discord. Well, I've got my own Discord here. But basically, deflanged. The shaft goes through here. And then we just do a grub screw in here. Oh, maybe actually in there. So I'm not going to put any thread lock in here since we may need to adjust this later. I'm guessing the position that this pulley sits... Wow. You are tight. I guess that's the one that I clamped it on, maybe? Yeah, that's better. So that's just ever so slightly tightened that it doesn't fall out. Skip that. Next up, the end stop. So the way this part works is you basically have, that's good enough. You basically have this part as a Z depth probe, so it gets probed with your nozzle directly, and this pulley is just to basically guide this rod in place somewhat precisely. No grub screw? What, no grub screw? Grub screw. No grub screw then. Okay, then no grub screw. No grub screw yet. So devs are telling me to not use a grub screw, and then okay. I'm gonna trust the devs on this more than the manual, since the manual supposedly is not the most up-to-date one. All right, okay, no grub screw yet. That's a grub screw, but okay. So the pulley is just the guidance for this pin then, because the pulley has a relatively good tolerance fit on this pin, and this has like almost no wobble in here, and it just gets pushed into this block. Let me see if I can find that block. I think I've seen that. It might be a accent color piece. I may also be wrong. And it's not actually an accent color piece. Nope. That's the thing, when you've not printed these parts yourself, it can be tricky to find the exact ones you're looking for. Especially because these don't have any labels on them or anything. Not that that would help much. Let me check the accent pieces again. Nope, 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 nope. Should be black then, I guess. Nope. So this should be all the XY parts. nope, 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 nope. Put these over here so we can get them back into their order again. That's not in here either. Oh, there it is. I see it. I see it. Yeah, the PIF set had a list of parts that were included, but it was not, like, it wasn't laid out which of these bags had which parts. So 2, 3, and 1 was not labeled on the sheet anyway. There it is. So that is the part that fits into, or is supposed to fit into. We'll see. And it does have that same gearing pattern on the inside. That, I think, that's a good fit. Like, that is a fit that is tight. Should I have aligned the grub screws in a special way? Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to get it out again, I think, without pushing in the back. That is still accessible enough. Yeah, and it's just going to butt up against the bed, so should be okay. Should be okay. And the pin sits in here. Now we need an end stop. And that end stop, I think I've already seen that in here. Yep. So we have 3 end stops XYZ, as you would expect. End stop micro switch. Secure the end stop micro switch with 2 of your M2 self-tapping screws. Make sure to remove the lever from the micro switch as it will get in the way. No, that's the wrong size. Typically you can pull these out. Yep, you can pull these out. So basically at this point we just have an Omron switch, as you'd find it in mice and stuff. Where is my M2? There they are. Self-tapping screws. That one is well labeled actually. Is this Omron? It's not Omron. It's just the Omron style switch that you see in mice and stuff. So this is an unlabeled generic micro switch. Make sure the plunger portion is lined up with the hole. Okay. This is not specifically called out in the manual, but yeah, it makes sense that when you have, what are these? Hex. So there is a cavity with the hole offset. And of course you want to install the micro switch with that, with the switch portion facing that hole and not like that where the pin doesn't press down on it. So it goes in like that into the hole, and then you have your 2 screws from the side that tie it all into place. Now I probably just need to find, that's a 1.5 or something. Yep. And even though, yes, I am using a bit for this, this goes in by hand just fine. I could use the Ryobi for this, but nah. So now theoretically, as this pin goes in, yeah, we've made a metal reinforced micro switch basically, using a pulley as a guide sleeve. Nice. So we just have to get some sort of a connector onto this. That's gonna, I know that's gonna be real annoying, but it's like you have a nice clicky ballpoint pen and it's just like Okay, I before I wear this out, I don't know how many cycles this no-name switch is rated for. 3-pin JST connector. You can solder them directly to the micro switch if you wish. All right, so I just need to grab one of those connectors. There are some. There's a bag of. Yep. An assortment of connectors included in the kit, and I'm not sure if this is actually. This might just be a set of connectors where it's like, hey, here's a generic connector set that we found that somebody else makes, and you know, this feels like it is way too many connectors for just building Voron. I think this might just be like a, you know, kit somebody else makes that Form would have thrown in here. So that goes. So I don't think we need to keep the pin in here for now. Okay, so the idea is to have this. Huh. Okay, so as we stay here. As we push this in, this is going to contact the screws. You can solder it directly to the micro switch, the manual says, but then I guess you would need to hot glue this in place and bend the pins around ever so slightly. Is there a pinout order for these? Does not look like it. But that is something I think I will do off stream. Because I would need to bend this in place and hot glue stuff and do all sorts of stuff to this to make this work and to make this function. I think I'm going to do this off stream just to not bother you with it. Because I know people like to get bothered at my soldering skills. So this is going to go over here for now, and we will deal with that at a more. I can't get it in frame. Sorry. At a more. There it is. At a more appropriate time off camera. So next up, we are going to skip yet another step. We're going to skip the bed mounting. And then basically this switch just mounts up against the bed. So since I'm supposed to, Nero has told me to skip the bed mounting for now and to do that later. This would get aligned to the bed, I would assume. So that the exact positioning of that part on the frame gets determined by where your bed is mounted anyway. So we're going to skip that and instead get started on the XY gantry assembly. These parts. This is the A and B motors, I guess. Though technically, I mean, it's not A and B motors. So it's not a like an A axis would be. Well, actually like this, a rotational axis about your X axis, and a B axis would be about the Y axis then. So these are called throughout the manual and throughout like the parts list and everything. They're called A and B motors, but they're not in fact driving an A and a B axis. So that can be a bit confusing, especially because this printer will have a B axis at some point. So yeah. AB drive modules. So I guess you could just look at this picture and go like, hey, yeah, I see all the parts I need. I'm going to build this. Right. So I guess this is the point where we do need all those parts from the from this set. Somebody asked about, Nuno Silva asked about where did I get the printed parts. The printed parts were supplied by the Voron team to me through the Print It Forward program, and Print It Forward is basically a part of how the Voron team organizes getting printed parts out. So these are parts that were printed on a Voron, on another Voron 2 in this case actually. And they are printed by people who have shown that they can make high quality parts. And the parts are printed to the specs and to the requirements of the Voron team themselves. So you do get some very high quality parts through that printed forward program. You can buy, I mean, you buy them outright. They cost money to make. And the 2.4 set would be $100 plus shipping to get a full set of parts as I have them here. So far I have only used printed parts that were included in the printed forward team. There's some more of these. And yeah, I think from what I know, this is a full set of parts that gets you a working printer, but some optional parts like skirts on the bottom that are decorative are not included.
I just wanted to send support to the channel and thank you for the afternoon stream.
Is this all the parts except the ones that I need? That's electronics. Oh, are those accent? That would be something actually for the Voron team. It would make it a lot easier to determine which parts you need if they were marked. If there was like a part number marked in the manual, like which exact part this is. And also whether it's an accent color part or just a base color part. So that would make picking those parts out a ton faster. $100 for the parts is, I mean, it's not a steal. It's a fair price, I would say, for the level of quality that you get. But also it's like, hey, do you want to tune in your printer to be up to the spec that this build requires? Because there are some parts that need tight tolerances like that, like this mate with the, this mate with the 20-tooth pulley, or some other parts that fit together that need some pretty good tolerances, and just by having printed forward parts, you are kind of guaranteed to get parts that work. More or less. You can print them, of course you can print them yourself. It's, as far as I know, 3-ish spools of filament. So, again, the printed forward price is very fair though. 3 full days of printing? Only 3 days? I threw them in Prusa Slicer and it was like 6 days for basic settings. But that might just be Prusa print settings also. And thank you for the $20, Courtesy Fabrications. Just wanted to send support to the channel. Thank you for the afternoon stream. I'm glad to be of entertainment to you. And maybe for someone in the future who is watching this build and is getting something out of it for building a Voron, even if it's just, you know, having something running in the background that keeps them company. You're welcome. 2 heat set inserts. Those are always very satisfying to insert. Oh. Oh, what is this? What? Hold on. So this is actually an assembly I'm supposed to build right now, right? So what parts do I need? I need these. And I need some other parts that I'm going to have to find. Okay. Thank you for the 20, Jesus. What are you? Okay. No, so some part that has like a a belt clamping strip on it somewhere. What are you? What part? Is this one part? Or is this two? The belt tensioners. M3 hole. That's a different part that you're then building, so that is one part, isn't it? And it's not in this box, I think. Also not in this box, and it's definitely not in this part. So as far as like picking out parts would go, the way that I think would make a lot of sense is just by going like by Lego manuals. You know how Lego manuals are set out? It's like, here's one step, and this is all the parts you need. And it has a nice picture of, this is part Johnny, and this is part Linda that we're gonna call, and we're gonna mate them together in this way, and it's gonna continuously get referred to as part Johnny and part Linda. And this is like, this is hard to make sense of from the start, like what exactly is happening here. And I'm having some trouble finding the parts even that, and I don't know what shape parts I'm supposed to look for here. That's oh, it's two parts that go together. Okay, it's two parts. So I think this is one half of them. Nah. And there is a, from what I can see, it's the Voron logo split in half. So I'm going to start looking for parts that have that Voron logo split in half on them. And I think I saw some of those somewhere, but it wasn't in here. The CAD model fills the gap from the manual. Sure. That's half a Voron logo, but that's the wrong part. I'm pretty sure about that. There is one. This one looks like it's one half. Yeah. Okay, this is that top part with the. If I oriented the same way, this is that top part. Yep. So this is one. So we just need to find the matching half. That's two. Okay. But is that just one? We're just building one of these? Front idler. I would think we're building two of these, but I guess we just have parts. No, there's a second one. There's a second one. And also making it clear where it's like, oh yeah, you're building one or you're building two of these. That would be helpful. Nope. So I've got that. Got these two parts, and I've got this, so I just need one more of these. on, these aren't even the same part. These aren't even the same part. Like you can see, these have different size holes in them. Small hole, big hole. So we're building. What are we building even? So we're building the one with the two larger holes. And then this part doesn't fit on here. So these two go together. Okay, so these have a pin and a socket kind of assembly, so these two match up. But this one has different pins, so I need to find the matching one for this. Which I can't seem to find. So that should be a similar size part to these guys, right? A and B tensioners, okay. That's not the part we need? That is the part we need. That is the part, as far as I can tell, that is the part we need at least. One of the parts that we need. I'm having a real tough time finding what we need. So these are parts for the next step. So we can take these. This is not the ones we need. That's motor stuff. That's fan shroud. No idea what you are, but you do not mate up with this guy. It looks like hot end parts, extruder parts, blocks. That is not the blocks we need. Am I seriously missing a part? Did I misplace a part? That goes on here somehow, I would guess. At least somewhere in that vicinity. I feel like I'm actually missing a part. Wow. Anything on the floor? No, I've not dropped anything for sure. Let's see, do we have anything else here on the table? No. Just quickly check the 3-box. So this is all electronics mounts and stuff, so I don't think it would have ended up in here. So you can go. Nope, that's all panel mount or something. That is not it. Huh. Turn the lights off and walk around barefoot. That is a good tip. It will find your feet. I think I'm missing a part. Then back here we have some extra ones that are fan shrouds for mosquito, but is that? Oh, that's it. That's it. This was in a different bag then. Found it. Found it. So that is that. In bag 2. Did I leave some in bag 2, or is this? Okay, that one might have been on me. Just dump them all into one big pile. That one might have been on me, perhaps, or it might have been in the wrong bag. Okay, there it is. Found it. All good. Maybe I should edit that out, but there it is. 2 halves of the A and B idlers, and they are slightly different. They have, so this one has the small hole, this one has the big hole. Oh, this one has the small hole in the back, this one has the big hole in the back. So I guess these are symmetrical in this way. And we're building both. Building both. I'm just gonna, do I have some sort of a box? Yes, I do. I do. There's always a Samla nearby when you need one, so. These all go in here for now. Okay. So basically, these are going to be built in the same way mostly. They're going to have the F695 bearing. They're going to get M5 shims on either side, and sometimes it helps to use the M5x40 as a guide and feed the washers and bearings one at a time. So these are actually going to go in some sort of a slot. Basic. Okay, let me just try and visualize this for a second here. So that it looks like a sort of a kingpin assembly on a RC car or something. So that is supposed to slide on here, I assume then, or maybe the other way around. I'm not sure. That is supposed to slide on here. And okay, I see how this works. So through this slot, I'm just going to put a hex socket through. So in here, you're going to have your bearings that slide along, your idler bearings. So as this red part gets tensioned or moved one direction, your idler bearings in that center are also going to get dragged along with that. So that actually tensions your belt then. So the bearing stack needs to go in here once these two are together. So we can't really pre-assemble them, I guess. We could stack them up and then get everything together and then try and scoop them up on the inside. That might work. But it's basically, it's a shim, it's a bearing, another bearing, and another shim. As a guide and feed the washers and bearings in one at a time. Yeah, that's the way that that's my least favorite way of installing these. But before I start putting these together somehow wrong, or the right way, I don't know. That goes like this. That goes like this with a little extended part with this section right here pointing towards the belt section. So like that. And then that eventually that's going to get an M3 screw, but that's the least of our concerns. So I'm going to try to stack everything up. Get the second half on, slide this over, and then drop the screw through, and hopefully it's going to catch all the parts we need in place. Use Nero's trick. I'm going to have to scroll up for that. Not seeing tip from Nero, but we'll make it. We'll make it through this together. Somebody asked, what are these parts made of? These parts are made from ABS. I believe the black ones are eSun ABS Plus, and the red ones are some other type of ABS. But it's all ABS parts for sure. So, shims, little gold shims, brass. And then we need the flange bearings, which I had here just a second ago. There they are. So we're going to need 4 of these. So these are the little bearings that have the flange built in, and they're going to be used to guide the bearing, to guide the belt in the middle. So they're going to be a double stack, and the belt's going to ride in the center. Which makes sense because if you just use a larger washer, you're going to have that washer static. It's not going to turn along with your belt riding on the bearing itself. Okay. So, washer, bearing, washer, or shim to be precise. So I'm just going to try and line these up as best as I can. Wiring keep running through. I'm just going to line these up, drop them on. And the second half goes on. Then, oh, I forgot which direction this goes. Towards the, like this, towards the belt clamp. And this guy goes through. And in theory, we've captured all the parts in here. That wasn't too bad. That's what I meant a second ago. You have that bracket on the outside sliding around, and it captures those bearings. That wasn't too bad. Now watch me drop it, and everything flies into a million pieces. But I do need some nuts for this. I do need some M5 nuts that I hope the kit included somewhere. M5 hex nut, there they are. That goes on, and of course now this can't fall out anymore. This is caught and captured in place. Is this the correct way around? I would think so. So with... Yeah, no, this is the correct way around. So if we show it the way that it's in the manual, wow, that's going to be hard to orient. So the manual has it sort of like this, kind of. If we switch over to the manual, this image right there, this is exactly what I've built. Nope. Yes. There you can see that extension goes towards the back. And that is exactly what we've built. The correct accent point, are they different? So which side of these is up and down? Okay, so the alignment basically is the side with the 2 large holes needs to have the screw head. Basically a nut, and then the nut is in the bottom. My question, of course, is does it matter? Because this screw isn't really protruding. Does it really matter? I mean, okay, I'll fix it. Okay, but this is technically upside down, though. Don't think it actually makes a difference. But okay, since everyone is watching. Now, of course, since this is now upside down, I will need to insert the screw from the bottom somehow. I can see the spacer moving around. we go. So now it should be the correct part and the correct orientation of the screw and correct everything. Built perfectly to spec. I guess we can tighten this up ever so slightly just to take out some of the slop. So yeah, I mean the red parts are technically basically identical, but if you actually line them up in the same orientation, or if you line them up in the same orientation, you have one side has the hole for the hex nut and the other side has the hole for the screw head. So now let's just do that one more time, and these parts should be done. So hold on, let me just verify. So this is this, but mirrored. That goes on like so, which means screw head is up top. That's good. So I can stack the parts up on this one. And actually, I will stack them up on a screw first, just to make it easier on ourselves. I shall drop these on like so. Already slightly misaligned. And then this one goes like so. And there you go, that's in. I don't know what you guys are saying. Like, hey, is this is going to be the tricky part of assembling this? I did not feel that this was tricky at all. Yeah, sure, it takes some concentration, but I'm always super concentrated when I build stuff live on camera. Right? Okay, there's two of these. One slidey boy, another slidey boy. Both have the bearings in the correct order, in the correct sequence, the correct orientation, all that. Perfect. Let's see. Oh yeah, next we have some rather complex parts. So these parts are done, I assume. So we're going to install those in a second onto something else. We were doing some bearing stacks a second ago. We're going to do some more, I guess. So M5 by 30. That's these. So it's always, each of the 695 bearings always has a shim, a dedicated shim on either side. Yeah, but at least you can stack these up while you assemble it. So that was the larger parts that I said we would need a second ago. It's all of these. And this is, I guess, I guess they let you assemble these first, just to give you a bit of a trial run of what you're going to do in a second. And this is the more advanced version of that. Kind of like, you know, what video games do when they're trying to teach you a new concept. It's like, here's this concept. Try it out in a safe space and see how it works and experiment with it. And next up, oh, there's the boss fight with all these new things you just learned. Are these identical? These are not quite. Okay. That's what I feel like this is, where it's like, oh, we prepared you. Here's the little, tutorial. Now onto the real deal. So install these or assemble these upside down. Now what is up? What's up on these? Which way is up? Do these need heat sets? Do these need heat sets? I don't think so. Oh, we've got more stuff that we're doing. Okay. This part will not stay in place. Okay, we're going to add that part later. So I'm guessing this is down here. That's where the counterbore goes for the screws, because these parts have, so one side has the counterbores. That's an M3 counterbore size. At least it looks like that. And then the other side is just flat. So I am guessing, what size are we using? M3 by 30. So when these go together, okay, these stick out. So as the screw goes in, the screw head sticks out a bit. What do we do with that then? Oh, we screw it into a motor. Okay, that makes sense. That makes total sense. So yeah, these are getting assembled in the way that I thought. But that's M5 by 30s. Okay. So this side has the screws go in. So that is the bottom for this one. I'm gonna need to wipe down some screws here, because these are extremely oily, and I think it's disgusting to work with these super oily, nasty screws. But hey, that's what the FormBot kit included. That's not the Voron's fault. That is just the that's just a specialty of what this particular FormBot kit, or kit from FormBot, includes. There's one, there's two. These screws we actually don't need yet. So it's just the bearing stacks. So this one gets 2 bearings. Okay. But which 2 bearings? That's the side that's not going to be contacting a motor. Is it? That is the counterbores for it. So according to the manual, let's just start out with this one. This one is the one that's oriented in the way that the manual is suggesting. This is the exact one that is pictured in the manual. Okay. Yeah. Just screw through here, screw through there. And then this one gets a stack, that one gets a stack, everyone gets stacked. Part-time Ronin, which is better, black oxide or zinc coating? Definitely gets added or galvanized zinc. I hate these black oxide screws. First of all, they are always greasy when you get them. Sure, I mean, they look cool. Yeah, they look cool because they're black. But they're always covered in grease. And when the grease kind of, I don't know if it evaporates. The grease shouldn't evaporate, but when the grease kind of passes and you're, you know, either you degrease it at some point, or I don't know, it's not a very good coating. At that point, they start to rust. So I fully assume that all these screws will be rusted in like 2 or 3 years' time. That's something that you see on the rails, on the threaded rods, on the Prusa printers. Those are also black oxide, and they rust like crazy a couple of years in. My Prusa rails are all covered in rust spots, and it looks absolutely disgusting as well. So black oxide screws, I would never use them when I had any sort of a choice. Like I've already said, I would, you know, I should have just replaced these with, is there anything that goes in here? It is not, right? I should have replaced these with all stainless, or at least galvanized, before I started the build. Okay, so that's the other side then. This is one side, that's the other side. But I can screw these together, right? Yeah. Black ones, they're much harder and stronger as steel is 12.9. I mean, I don't think these are 12.9s. These are 10.9s actually, which is like, honestly, it does not matter. You're threading into plastic. I don't know if you can see it, but there it says 10.9. 10.9, yeah. It is 100% completely, absolutely irrelevant whether these are 4.6 or 8.8s or 10.9 or 12.9s, because you're assembling into plastic parts. You are not tensioning these into anything that would that you could even load these or pre-tension them up to their spec. If I torqued these down, there would be no plastic part left. So you could use aluminum bolts with this. Absolutely, would not make the slightest bit of a difference. So standard 8.8 galvanized screws, absolutely adequate, 100%. Black really is just for the wow factor. So yeah, and I think I did assemble this correctly. Well, let me correct that. The black oxide is just for the wow factor until that wow factor literally runs out and you're left with rust spots on all of your screws and threaded fasteners. So, yeah. Aluminum to save weight? Possibly. Also, thank you, Part-Time Ronin, for deleting that spammer. I think I've got, so in the stream starting soon screen, you've got the tips, the loading screen tips on the bottom. I wrote those up like in an hour. Just sat down, made up some lame jokes, and that's it. And one of the lines in there is thank you to the mods for doing such a great job. And I mean that. Like the mods in chat here, thank you. You guys are amazing. It's just like I said earlier. I'm thinking about so many things at the same time: camera angles, chat, building a printer, and knowing that chat is at least taken care of by amazing people like Part-Time Ronin. That's just making this so much. Well, so much. It is taking that part away and out of my head, and I don't have to worry about it. And that's amazing. Thank you. So hopefully I can focus on things like showing this in frame. Okay. So that's still this side, and I guess that is that part completed. And we will attach it to a motor in a second. So basically now we just build another one of these. And that's this side. Yep. Oh, I thought we got these. One screw, two screw, nope. One screw, two screw. This one goes in here. And then this one, because this one doesn't have that shoulder on that part, actually goes together a bit differently, and it needs some more bearings. Where are my bearings? There are my bearings. So each of these gets at least one set of flange bearings like that. And then the one on the corner gets another set of flange bearings. Nope. Nope. Also gets some shims first. And another shim up top. There we go. And then this goes on here. And get straight together. So these M5 screws, yeah, literally get threaded into plastic, which is a first. But I mean, I guess there's no. Is there some? Yeah, I guess there's the slightest amount of force on these parts, or on these screws. I mean, at least this assembly is held together by those two screws that thread into plastic. But it shouldn't pop apart anything. By the way, there is a bit of a gap, but I'm guessing that's gonna get tied onto a onto an aluminum profile at some point. So that should be taken care of. All right, there's those. Then two more motors, and that's actually, except for the extruder motors, we've got all the motors on the machine or on the printer. Sure you didn't forget anything? Forgot chain holder. Yeah, so the chain mount is like, you may wish to add this part now or skip this step until you're ready to add the cable chain. So I'm guessing that part is optional. I mean, I can see where it goes into. Yeah, it's this one. So it's right here. That's where that little part would go. But I would need to screw it down onto something. So there's two nuts in here. I would need to put some screws through here just to hold that place. Just to hold that part in place. Yeah, I am gonna skip that for now because I would need to undo it again anyways, and unless I'm attaching a drag chain right now, I don't see the point why I'd add this part and remove it later again. Okay, I'm trying to figure out the orientation of the wiring with these. And there is no... So you add the pulley, sure. But I can only see like which direction the wiring should not go and not which direction the wiring should go. They're in the back here, so I can't see them here. If I had to guess, honestly, I have no idea. But I would say they would go towards where the drag chain goes, so they would go out this side, away from the belt and towards the drag chain. Inwards. Okay, wires towards the middle. Two wires face each other, but what is the center then? I don't see what this part does yet. How does this? So there's a profile. I have no idea where these parts are going to end up in the printer. Like inwards is absolutely not what. Yeah. Towards the chain mount. Okay, so that way. Okay. That makes sense. So one goes on like this, and then the other goes on like that. So yeah, that's going to be the... What is this going to be? I don't know. Away from logo. So like that. I'm getting mixed messages here. I'll look for the pulley while you guys fight it out which direction the cable should go. So I'm gonna go there. That is your left with the wires facing that way, and that is your right with the cables facing that way. Yes, you had it correctly. So Towards traction was correct, so left, left, left. That. Okay. Yeah, that manual that could use an update. Just, I mean, it probably doesn't matter which way the cables come out, right? It probably is completely irrelevant in the end which way those cables come out of the motors, because really if you've got them in the wrong spot, you just tie them around. But it just looks better if they come out the correct direction. So these need these need 20-tooth pulleys assembled with the clamp piece towards the motor. That's always something you have to keep in mind, or you have to watch out for. Which way does the pulley go? Because sometimes you can't tighten down the screw if they are in the wrong orientation. And I will add a bit of thread lock here. This is, so on those grub screws, that is like the one spot where it's say thread lock is basically mandatory. Thankfully, they've moved away from doing the M3 and then with a 1.5 millimeter hex. Those were even worse because you couldn't really tighten them down. Now with the M4 and the 2 millimeter hex, it's a bit better. Like you don't have to worry about it that much anymore, but it's still one of those spots where thread lock basically is mandatory, because if that grub screw starts coming loose, you are screwed. The screw is screwed and you are screwed, because it's so hard to diagnose. Wire wrong? I thought that was the orientation you guys wanted me to do it. Pulleys upset. Oh. I see what you mean. Oh, okay. So the one with no, so this one is correct. So the wire is fine. The wire is fine. The wire is going towards this side, towards the side with the drag chain mount. And this is the one where we have the flange towards the motor, because this is the one with the drag chain mount. These parts should really get a label, like where it's like, okay, this is the left drive unit, or front or back or whatever, or A or B, A and B. I mean, that would make sense because we're doing the A and B motors. So this one is the one with the drag chain mount, and we've got the wire the correct direction, and the pulleys going with the flange towards the motor. So that's good. Now for height, I guess it's lined up with the with that idler bearing that's right next to it. Make sure you mount it on the A drive side, the opposite as the B drive side. Yeah. Use the Fusion 360 model. I might load that up next time, but I don't have it loaded up now. So that's lined up. You can see in there that is lining up with that. It doesn't look like it's lined up on camera, but from what I can see, it is pretty much perfectly lined up. That goes in here, grub screw tightens down, and that one is set. Can I tighten this down some more? Nah, this is good. Best to set exact height later with the belt. I mean, if it's, this is a bit large, the pulley is a bit wider than what the idler flange allows you to have spacing wise. You can see in there. Yeah, you can back here. The The pulley is a bit wider than what the idler allows you to do, so this is going to be good in either case. And then this one goes on the opposite direction. This one goes on with, come on, with the grub screw facing away or away from the motor block or from the motor itself. All right, and then the wire goes out this way. Those shims seem thick to me. I don't have my calipers down here, but I can give them a measurement. I think they should be 1 millimeter. 1 millimeter would be the correct orientation, correct thickness. Thinking about pulley orientation as Sam P is trying to troll here. But no, that pulley is 100% in the correct orientation. All I need to do is to get it down to its correct level. And that correct level is here. That's correct. That's as correct as it gets. Yeah, you can see down there it lines up with the idler. Come on. Okay, that's as tight as you get. All right, and there is both of the A and B drive units assembled, and I'm guessing from what I'm seeing on these parts, that's probably the wrong one, but this looks like it's taken a 2020 profile. And that looks like it's taken a 2020 profile, so we're going to have something like this, probably with a longer profile though. Maybe it's also going to be like that. I've not built one of these before, so like I said, having, probably both would work in some way. Having like front, back, and side thrown at me, I'm like, I have no idea. I had it right first time? Okay. It's, like I said, it's the wrong profile, probably. But without the CAD model, just at hand, that's pretty hard. But I think that is as good of a time to call it as it gets, because next up, we would start, yeah, more linear rails that need some precision. And I don't feel like I've got any precision left in me for today after all of this. So what did we do today? We've basically laid the groundwork for the XY-AB assembly. We've got some belt tensioner. Those are going to go onto the XY, core XY assembly actually. Next time we have an electronics compartment built with some DIN rails, which was a bit tricky. We've got the base component, the base, what is this called? Base plate? It's got a name. This part's got a name. We've got some idlers for the Z-axis. So those just need, oh yeah, and we've got all the Z drive units assembled. So the motors are on here. If we attached a belt on these, we could already drive something up and down. Those are on the printer, and it's starting to gain some weight. The bed is assembled. Deck plate, yes, the deck plate, as the Australians, New Zealanders like to say. Mag bed is assembled onto the base onto the bed itself. We've got the heater assembled. Sorry if that blew off someone's headphones. Thermofuse is assembled. That's going to need some soldering and some wiring at some point. And yeah, that is as good as, like I said, that's a good time to call it. Next time, XY drive unit. Hopefully. Yeah. And this should start looking a lot more like a printer. Heatset inserts on the last one. That is something I will need to do next time as well. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for stopping by and helping me build this printer. It was immensely helpful to have people watching my every step, or I would probably have needed to go back and disassemble some stuff. Anyways, that's going to be it for today. If you want to see more shenanigans like this, get subscribed. If you want to support the channel, you can do so through YouTube memberships. Actually, we did see Physics Quack as a new member just during this stream. That's a feature of YouTube directly. You can throw $5 in my hat and support this channel, or you can go to Patreon. And yeah, both YouTube members and patrons get access to roughly monthly Q&A hangouts where I answer your stuff one-on-one. Well, not one-on-one, but everyone gets to ask and everyone gets the answers. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. And I will see you in the next one in 2 days from today. Bye. Bye. Bye.